On this episode of Carnage, we're putting the Supercharged 6 in our VN Commodore. Hey guys, we got ourselves a present. We got some Pacemaker headers here for our L67. So this is kind of the final piece of the puzzle. This is going to allow us to put the engine in the car, make some horsepower. So we're going to unwrap them, see how they sit on the engine, make sure everything fits up perfectly right. Now, we should note that the L67 motor never came out in the VN. These are VS headers for a VS sedan. VS and VN are very similar, but they're not the same. So Pacemaker have sent these to us with kind of the caution that we may have to do some modifications, because this engine and that car never came together, not in the factory in any shape or form. So it's going to be interesting to see if this does help us get that engine in this car. If we have to modify them, so be it. Pacemaker are quite aware that we may have to modify them, and they've even said that the collectors, being this supercharged setup, they reckon the collectors on this will probably be on the small side. We may have to slice them off, put bigger collectors, but they can't do that at the factory because they don't know if that then fits in the car. So this is something that's got to be done on the car. So let's open them up, set them on the motor, see how they look. Oops. All right, we've got our bolts, we've got some gaskets. So they come with flanges, obviously, but yeah, you can see the collector area is quite small, so we can cut it off there, put a much bigger collector on that portion so we don't have this sort of necked down section. So that obviously is the driver's side. So we'll just set that there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is loosely bolt them up to the engine and see how they fit, see how they sit, and make sure it's all good to go. I don't see there being any problem. I mean, it's not the engine that's really the problem, it's the car. Alright, we have them, and we've got some bolts. So, gasket will go like so. Now, slide that over, like so. Okay, so we've got a bit of a clearance problem here between the bottom of the flange and the top of the head stud nuts. They sit up a little bit higher than the original bolts of the head bolts would have, and so therefore it's created a clearance problem between the bottom of the flange. There's quite a bit of material there, so what we'll do is just die grind the bottom of the flange a little bit so they clearance those nuts, and yeah, we'll make it work. But this is why we dummy assemble things. We need to do this to make sure things fit right. You can imagine if we were trying to deal with this in the car, what a nightmare that would be. So now we know, and yeah, we'll just get the pen out, mark those couple areas, get a die grinder, clearance them, we'll make it work. Okay. All right, let's check the other side. Yeah, I think we've got the exact same problem on this side. The head stud nuts are holding it up high enough that, yeah, we're not able to get all the bolts in. So again, we'll get the marking pen out. There's always something, isn't there? So after trial fitting our headers, we've discovered we need to clearance a little bit of area around where the head stud nuts go. So obviously we'll try and remove as little material as possible so we don't compromise the sealing of the exhaust flange. But I was going to use a die grinder, but A, we don't have one, so I have to go borrow it from the boys down the street. And B, we can do it with our Ryobi angle grinder. So I've got a flappy disc on here, so I'm just going to remove a little bit of metal from the marked areas. Seems to get down and flat with the flange, so let's whack a couple of bolts in this thing. Well, that seems to be just about perfect. Sitting flat against the head and no longer hitting those head stud nuts. Good job. Well, it's been a busy morning here in the Carnage workshop, but now that we've got some free time, I'm hoping to get this engine bolted to that transmission and in that car. All right, I'll drop this down so we can get the trans mated up to it, and then we'll roll her over to the VN, and hopefully we can put it in with our new pipes. Hopefully. Well, that's the closest they've been in a long time. Well, actually, this transmission's never been attached to this engine, so this is going to be a new introduction. Alrighty. And just like that, they're on. All right, we can come down a little bit. All right, let's come down a little bit more. Fucker, get in there. There we go. Okay. Yep, one needs to come up just a fraction. Go in there. There we go, I think. Right, that's that one. Okay, now because that one's slightly rotated up, what we'll do is lift engine slightly and gently caress it into place. Almost. There we go. All right, all the weight's off it at the moment. There we go. Tappity tap. Well, there it is, L67 in a VN, but I know what you're going to say. You haven't done the pipes yet. You're probably freaking out. It's not a problem. We wanted to anchor the back of the transmission, so now we can jack the engine up, move it from side to side, get our pipes in there. It'll be easier that way, I know from experience. But we have run out of time today, so the pipes will be a job for tomorrow. So now we've got the engine in, it is time to put in our pipes. Now, the passenger side pipe has slipped in straight from the top, easy as. So this is the driver side pipe, and as you can see, it's a two-piece arrangement. It splits so it goes around the steering shaft. Now, we've already sat the other part in near the shaft. Now, this part will not fit that way. We've tried. So what we have to do, or what we have done, is jack the engine up. I've stuck a pry bar under the engine mount. You can see it down here. So the engine's sitting up off to the side slightly, and what we're going to do is we're going to slide this in from underneath. That is the way it's going to have to happen. So the reason you can't feed this in from the top is really this part. It's so fat around that area that it won't get in past the steering shaft, but you can go from underneath. So if we slide this up carefully so we don't scratch our paint. There we go. Alrighty, so now, because the engine is jacked up, it won't sit there properly. So what we'll do is we'll sit the pipe like that, then we'll lower the car down, lower the engine down into place, and then we can bolt it into position. Okay. I just got the one at the back. Have to line it up. Alright, we'll jack it back up. So as you can see, doing this at home without a hoist is going to be a real pain in the butt, because you really need to get it up high to get those pipes in. So what we're going to do is just attach our rear cylinder pipe around the steering shaft. I'll just do it loosely at the moment. We'll tighten it up later. Just kind of connect the two together. So as you can see, the collectors on these are quite small because they're not made for supercharged engines, but Pacemaker have sent us these. So what we can do is cut our collectors off and weld these on. Now, the reason they didn't do this back in their factory is because they didn't know what our clearances were going to be like around the transpan and everything else. So we can cut them off, weld them on, and position them exactly where they need to be pointed. And that way we get the full flow of a 3-inch collector rather than whatever that is, which I think is only about 2-inch. All the flow, that's what we want. Okay. Well, pipes are in. I guess we should see about those collectors. That's not going to be fun.